There are certain things you just don't expect when moving into a quiet, suburban neighborhood. You don't expect your next-door neighbor to file a complaint about your mailbox color before you've unpacked a single box. You definitely don't expect a complete stranger to accuse your wife, a decorated law enforcement officer, of impersonating a cop. And yet, welcome to our new neighborhood. Let me rewind a bit. My wife Rachel and I had just moved into what was supposed to be our dream house. It had a front porch perfect for morning coffee, a fenced backyard for our golden retriever Max, and enough space for both of us to finally feel like we'd made it. We were both professionals. I work in cybersecurity, and Rachel had just transferred into a special division of the local police department, internal investigations. She'd worked her way up for over a decade and had the credentials, badge, and training to show for it. Most of the time, she wore plain clothes. But depending on the assignment, she could just as easily come home full uniform, badge on chest, service belt, and that, my friends, is where Karen enters the picture. It was only our third day in the house. I was in the garage setting up some shelving, and Rachel had just pulled into the driveway after a long day at the precinct. She was still in her uniform, navy tactical pants, collared shirt with the embroidered department insignia, badge, and all. As she grabbed her gym bag from the car, a voice called out from across the lawn. "Excuse me, ma'am? Excuse me." Rachel looked up, a bit confused. There she was, a woman in her mid-50s with perfectly coiffed blonde hair, oversized sunglasses, and a clipboard in her hand, the holy trinity of suburban power. "Yes," Rachel said, polite but cautious. "I don't think I've seen you around before," the woman replied. Is security?" Rachel blinked. "No, I'm a detective with the city police department." Karen tilted her head like a confused dog. "But you're wearing a police uniform. Is that real?" "Yes," Rachel said flatly. "I just got off duty." Karen pursed her lips, looked Rachel up and down, and without another word, scribbled something on her clipboard. The next morning, I went to grab the mail and found a sealed envelope on top of our mailbox. No stamp, just hand-delivered. Inside was a letter, printed in bold font across the top. Violation warning, improper representation of law enforcement. From HOA President Karen Redfield. It went on to say, "A resident has been observed wearing what appears to be a police uniform while entering a private property. Unless this individual can produce verification of employment with the city police department, this behavior may constitute impersonation, which is a criminal offense. Consider this a formal notice of concern from the HOA." I actually laughed at first. I thought it was a prank. Rachel didn't. She read the letter, looked at me with a deadly calm, and said, "She's serious." Turns out Karen had filed a complaint, not just with the HOA, but with Rachel's precinct. The precinct did what they're required to do. They logged it and forwarded it to internal. Rachel got a call from her captain asking her what the heck was going on. "So, some woman named Karen claims you're impersonating an officer while playing dress-up in the neighborhood?" "Sir, I live there. That's my uniform. That's my jurisdiction." "Yeah, I figured." I told them the same thing. "But it's on the record now. Keep your badge handy." And from that moment on, the tension in the neighborhood ratcheted up to DEFCON 2. Karen began watching us. Like, constantly. If Rachel went outside in uniform, Karen was on the porch with her phone, pretending to water plastic plants. If Rachel came home in plain clothes, Karen would casually approach and ask questions like, "Oh, are you the woman from the other day? The one in costume?" One day, Rachel caught her taking photos as she parked. That's when Rachel said, "She's not just nosy. She's collecting evidence." Then things took a darker turn. One of our neighbors, a sweet woman named Lisa, came over one evening holding her phone. She looked disturbed. "Hey, I thought you should see this." Karen posted something in the HOA community group. She showed us a screenshot. There was a blurry photo of Rachel getting out of her car, uniform visible but face turned away. The caption said, "Be alert, a woman is impersonating an officer in our neighborhood. Has anyone verified her identity? This could be a public safety concern. Report to HO immediately." My stomach turned. Rachel clenched her jaw. "Okay," she said. "She wants to call." She walked inside, grabbed her credentials, placed her badge on the chair, and opened her laptop. "Time to make a few calls." Karen thought she'd caught someone in a lie. She thought she could bully her way to control. What she didn't realize was the woman she was accusing wrote the manual on spotting lies, and now she was looking straight at one. Karen crossed the line. Now, the real investigation was about to begin. Some people think they can bend the truth just enough to fit their narrative. Karen didn't just bend it. She tied it in a knot, spray painted it red, and marched it around like a trophy. But the thing about accusing someone like Rachel, a real detective with access to tools, contacts, and a whole lot of patience, is that when the truth does come out, it tends to hit back with paperwork. And Rachel was just getting started. After Karen's anonymous post in the HOA's private forum, things got tense in the neighborhood. Neighbors who once waved now gave awkward glances. One man across her even she was really a cop while putting his trash out. Rachel didn't explode. She didn't even raise her voice. Instead, she opened a folder and began gathering evidence. Photos. Screen captures. Her precinct had already cleared wrongdoing. Now, Karen's repeated public claims, including the group post and a verbal warning to a neighbor's child not to trust the fake police lady, had crossed into defamation. And Rachel? She knew exactly how to document every step of it. The next step was a strategic one. Rachel didn't go to Karen. She went to the HOA's regional management office, bypassing the neighborhood committee entirely. She requested a meeting with their legal rep, who was surprisingly open once she stated her credentials and the reason for her visit. Your president filed a false report, distributed defamatory statements, and publicly accused me of a crime, without any due process or verification. I'd like to know what actions your board intends to take before this becomes a civil issue. The room went silent. Turns out, the regional HOA team wasn't thrilled to hear that Karen escalated a personal grudge into a legal mess that might implicate them. They promised to review the matter internally. Rachel handed over a copy of her badge, her precinct ID, and a written statement. And she walked out, cool, calm, and 5 steps ahead. A week later, the monthly HOA meeting was packed. Not because of any landscaping updates or budget discussions, but because word had spread. Rachel's coming to speak. Even Karen was there, sitting front row with her clipboard and that smug little half smile like she was about to enjoy some theater. But she had no idea she was the show. Rachel stood at the front, dressed professionally but casually, no uniform, no badge on display. Just a file folder in one hand and the truth in the other. She started calmly. My name is Detective Rachel's name. I'm a member of the city police department, and I've lived in this neighborhood for the last month. Then she pulled out prints of Karen's groups. This resident, she said, pointing directly at Karen, has repeatedly accused me of impersonating an officer, in writing, publicly, and without cause. Karen stood up mid-sentence. You're not even in uniform. Where's your badge right now? Rachel didn't flinch. She opened the folder, pulled out her ID and badge, and calmly walked them over to the board members. They reviewed it, nodded, and passed it around. One of them whispered, "Yep, that's real. You said I was pretending," Rachel continued, voice firm to control. "But here's the truth, you never asked. You just assumed. You posted it to community page. You filed a false report, and I have all of it documented." Ken's scrapped. "I was pretending in the neighborhood." "From what?" "A woman walking to her home after work." Again murmuring. "Woman Rachel." "She really is a detective?" Rachel nodded and smiled. 12 years, Internal Affairs Division. Suddenly the mood shifted. One in the back said, "Karen, you told me she was under investigation, that she was a fraud." Another chimed in, "You made it sound dangerous. I was stalking the kids. I was just doing my duty as HOA president." But now no listening. Rachel did the board a final document. "This is a cease and desist. If I see one more false, one more flyer, or one more mention of my name in a defamatory context, I will pursue civil damage." The president of the board thanked her and promised to follow up. Rachel turned, nodded to the room, and walked out. Karen sat frozen in her seat, bolts in hand, but over once, without a single word. Over the next few days, things got awkward in the neighborhood. Karen staying in the community, though issued a apology for the accusations made by a resident. Few came over to apologize, admitting they believed Karen's version at first. One even She smiled and said, "I appreciate that. I just wanted the..." But behind that smile, I could tell she wasn't done yet, because Karen had filed a false report with city police. Rachel? She knew exactly how to respond to that. Karen thought slinging mud would make her the hero. But when truth came to light, she was the only one left dirty. Rachel didn't just earn her name, she showed Karen what authority looks like. So Karen would learn what real consequence like. You'd think after front of the entire neighborhood, Karen would have gone silent. But no, Karen acted for doubling down on her own disasters. She tried to spin the HOA meeting outcome as deep state intimidation and called Rachel a badged bully. She even told neighbors that Rachel planted the badge just to win sympathy. But at this point, no one was buying it, except Karen didn't realize that in trying to slander a real detective, she had wandered across a line far more serious than HOA gossip. And Rachel was about to show her where that line led. You see, when Karen ordered it to local precinct, she didn't just file a complaint through the HOA. She had also submitted a written statement, signed and dated, to the non-emergency police line team that is where a police form and officer is. To the address, Chill's description mentioned upon licensed fire. That single statement turned this from petty drama into a criminal false police report. Rachel waited until the dust settled from the HOA meeting. Then she forwarded Karen's complaint, along with her own compiled evidence, camera footage, community post screenshots, and witness testimonies, to her precinct's legal affairs office. 2 weeks later, Karen was flooded. Notice investigation of false police report issued by Internal Affairs Division. It had the allegations and requested Karen for a veterinary review. She didn't. She called the HOA board but claims being harassed by the woman with the badge and that she was just doing her civic duty. But the HOA board wasn't buying it anymore. After the public embarrassment and the legal threat, they wanted distance. They officially suspended Karen's HOA privileges pending the outcome of the investigation. Karen lost her power, and she started to unravel publicly. Over the next few days, her front yard turned into a circus of stress. First, a city investigator showed up with a cord and served her with follow-up paperwork. Then, a real estate agent was spotted leaving rumor she'd quietly asked about selling. And next, her prized neighborhood watch sign vanished overnight. Pretty sure someone just removed it. And finally, the same neighbors who once attended her HOA meetings now crossed the street to avoid talking to her. Karen, in classic fashion, tried one last Hail Mary. She sent out her access hadn't been cut, claiming that she was being targeted by a police conspiracy to silence whistleblowers and urged neighbors to demand justice. The reply button lit up like a Christmas tree. One of the best responses came from Lisa, the neighbor who originally showed us the forum post. You falsely accused a detective and then lied about it. Maybe sit this one out, Karen. 1 month after the investigation was officially opened, Rachel received a brief email from Legal Affairs. Investigation into subject Karen Letfield concluded. Subject found case for civil use required this lawsuit, but the fact officially found was all Rachel needed. The next weekend, Karen's house was suddenly listed for sale. Neighbors watched from the porches as a for sale by owner sign appeared in the yard. She didn't hold an open house. She didn't say goodbye. And when the moving truck pulled up, guess who stood at our driveway? Rachel, arms crossed. Calm as ever. That afternoon, Rachel took Max for a walk around the block. It was a quiet, kind of day we dreamed of when we first moved in. As we passed Karen's house, the truck was just closing its back door. Karen stood on the porch, visibly flustered, watching her. Didn't say it. She didn't need to. But as we passed, she calmly reached into her jacket, pulled out her badge, and flashed it for just a second. Then she winked. Karen turned and walked inside. That was the last time we ever saw her. Karen wanted to play officer, handing out judgments, giving orders, acting like she was the law. But in trying to expose someone else, she exposed herself. Because badges aren't props. And authority isn't pretend. Especially when you accuse the wrong person and they've got the real badge to prove it.